So I arrived here in Catania. Actually, it's where this road ends, is Catania. I got there, I think, on a Saturday night. And so the ferry's tickets offices were closed. And so I figured, okay, well, I better look for a place to sleep for the night. And for the first time in my life, I had an opportunity that I always wanted to do. And it was, I wanted to get off the grid. Now, I didn't know what off the grid meant at that time. That's a phrase that I learned later as a Friar, actually here in America. All right. But I want, like, I was a cub, I was a scout, I was a venturer, I was a cub scout leader. Love Australia, nature, love it, love camping. I always believed in the ethics of sort of like simple living, having a map, working together as a team, you know, like using everyone's gifts and talents to, you know, to reach a goal. So when I get to Europe, it's nothing but tourism. I'm feeling suffocated literally by the world. I get to Catania and I don't have any friends with me anymore. I don't have any family with me. I have this last night, you could say, before going to family, that I want to experience living on the streets as a foreman. Now, not everyone has to do this, but I had this yearning in me. I don't know where, like, I think it was, no, it was divine. I wanted I had everything going for me in Australia. And when I looked at, you know, people suffering from hunger on TV, there was a desire to suffer like them, to want to at least experience it, you know, to have some kind of compassion for them. And so, you know, I figured, well, I should be able to spend one night on the streets. And so here I am in Catania. Catania is not your typical town. It's underneath a volcano. So all of its streets, all of its buildings are made from volcanic rock, like hardened lava, which is black. So here I am wanting to sleep for my first time on the streets in this town that's completely black. It starts to get dark. All these dark figures start to come out at night, like these people, like obviously like street people that, you know, like, you know, I don't speak the language and I'm starting to get a little bit scared. And I'm going through all these emotions, and meanwhile I'm saying this, I'm still going through this whole depression thing, I'm still struggling with everything. And my temptations come back again, and so I'm like, what am I going to do, where am I going to stay? I'm walking down the street, two American girls walk past. And I'm like, I hear that English, I'm like, hey, where are you going, where are you staying tonight? There's a hostel around the corner, down the street, around the corner, knock on the door in the piazza there. Okay, so I go there, they go the other way. I get to the door, and I remember very distinctly, it's a very important moment for me. I was at the door, and I was ready to knock on, to get into this hostel, and I'm like, no. I need to have this experience in my life. I need to be able to trust that everything's going to be okay. I can do it. So I turned around and I kept walking. I started walking down the street. I walked down Via Eternea, which is the principal street in Catania. It leads, like, you got the cathedral back, the coast is back here. So the coast is back here. I mean, I'm exaggerating. Thank you, Jesus. The coast is here. I'm pointing towards Mount Etna, walking down this main street, and the old temptation, like I'm trying to figure everything out. I'm like, God, I have sought freedom. I left everything and everyone. I've tried to get away from it all to find freedom. I've like given my everything to try, and I feel more in prison than I ever did before. Like I feel like a slave. I'm afraid. Like I've got fear running through me. I've tried everything, almost everything, to be happy, to find happiness, peace, love. And I feel like the most rejected, unloved, unhappy person in life. You know, I've tried everything. Like, I mean, is there any point to my life? And so, in that moment I made this, and this is how I came to faith. I call it a moral, moral existential reasoning, at least, over the truth. The way I see it, like I ask myself, if I commit suicide now, and I don't think I would have ever done it. I don't. You know, my grandmother, my mother, my family was always there in the background. I don't think I could have, but I was like at a crucial moment. I was like, if I commit suicide right now, and there's nothing, like if I throw myself out in front of a car and die, if there's nothing afterlife, that would mean, and so even though I lost my faith, I understood that Mother Teresa of Calcutta was a holy woman. Before I left Australia, my mother gave me an image of the Virgin Mary, Our Lady of Perpetual Help. She gave me one little image of that, and I put that in my phone book, and together with an image of Saint Mother Teresa of Calcutta. She wasn't a saint yet. She was still alive, actually, at that time. That I thought to myself, if there's nothing after life, if it's complete black, darkness, emptiness, nothing, and Mother Teresa spent her whole life sacrificing herself, there's no denying the goodness of what she did. For me, it was absolutely clear that she died, she gave up her own self to help others. Meanwhile, there's someone who doesn't care about anyone or anything and abuses the most innocent, young or old or whatever, and doesn't want to change, and both of them die, and there's nothing after life, then then there would be no point of life, full stop. What would be the point of life at all? So there has to be a God, there has to be a reward, there has to be correction, there has to be a reward in our own human identity, and for the good that we've done as well. So I said, I cannot commit suicide. And I think there is where I made my first, and it took me such a long time, it took me the first time to responsibly embrace the truth, embrace life, say yes to life. And then I said, well, then why am I here? If there is meaning to my life, what's the meaning of my life? And as soon as I said that, and I'm walking down the street, I look up, and I see these three poor people standing on the side of the road, filled with life. It was a community. So what I saw from a distance already was everything I wanted. They were poor. They didn't look homeless. They might have they looked a little homeless, but they had a dignity to them. They were a community. They were happy. They were free. You could see that freedom. So I approached them, and I first spoke with one guy who didn't speak any English, like Danilo, and he's like, one moment, please. You speak with the hair. And he directed me to this sister who's no longer in our community, but she was very good at languages, and she spoke English, and she said, I'm a Catholic. I said, oh, who are you guys? I'm a Catholic. And I'm like, yeah, I am too, right? We prayed rosary that night. I couldn't even remember Hail Mary. That's how far I was. So speaking with her, she said, well, look, you have to speak with him. And there's this guy behind her, little guy, talking with a lot of energy, he's passionate, he's talking with this one person, They finish their discussion, turn around, he looks at me, and she translates, my story to him. And he turns to me, he grabs me by the shoulders, and he says, do you want to become a saint? That were the first words he told me. I remember that clearly. That, here I am thinking, saint. I don't know what that means. I remember the statues being carried around back in Malta. I had a little chuckle. But they later went on to explain to me that being a saint means anyone who's in heaven, right? But with a glorious body. And this is what tipped it for me. Because when I was exploring New Age spiritualities, Buddhism, Hinduism, and it was just a big insalata, as they say in Italy, a salad. It was just throwing everything in there, and I was getting very confused. And the first time someone spoke to me with conviction that in heaven we'll have a body. Men will be men, women will be women. A glorious body. I like the sound of that. I mean, seriously, that's what it's all about. Like, I mean, if I can't have a human identity, imagine, like, I mean, you know, so, and here, in here, I'll just put a parenthesis, here is where our society's confusion is about identity, because we've lost sight of our identity in God as men and women for eternity. When he said this, it just brought so much clarity and crispness to it. So here I am, like, I still didn't believe in this, like, I didn't have the certainty, but I was attracted to the thought that it could be possible.